Greetings and welcome to a Monday edition of the Shotgun Start. It is July 22nd. Andy, how we doing?
Brendan, I'm doing great. You know, it's just a huge day in American history. Big day in American history. Lots of news. The Americans sweep the majors for the first time since 1982.
Sweep them. Take all four. Xander, thanks to Xander, and a couple Sunday 65s that are equal to my eye on the paper. It's Valhalla and Royal Troon, just tomato, right down the similar style. Thanks to him, they sweep the majors. I think it's 7 of 9. I think it's it's a lot of the last majors, maybe 9 of 10, something. Justin Ray's, just go to him. He has more reliable stuff, but they're on a run of winning a lot of majors. Xander with an incredible performance at Royal Troon. Billy Boy, Justin Rose acquitted themselves. Thriston looked for an hour like he might be our winner. I've got some on him I want to talk about, but I think we got to start with Xander. A big day. He got his thunder stolen, quite honestly, which is probably what he likes, just with the presidential movements. Xander should have been in the eye. It should have been all about Xander today. And, the final putt drops, and then we get the big, boom, presidential announcement. And it was sort of everybody's moved on to that. I was surprised, quite honestly, NBC didn't cut away to like special news coverage and just pull the plug on Tirico and everybody at Troon. But they stuck with it. So.
I feel like it came in right after.
It did.
It came in like right after. It makes me wonder if Biden was watching the golf and waited till he was done and hit send. Seems like somebody that wants to ride off into the sunset might do, you know?
Clay, we've established our supremacy in the major championship golf again, all four, and I'm out. Maybe that was the timing. Go ahead.
It seems like something an 81-year-old might want to do. You know, good for the 81-year-old. Signing off and taking a hiatus. Like, you know what? You deserved it. You're 81 years old. It's time for some time off. You know,
it's sad. It's sad. Not the announcement, whatever you want to make it. It's sad. It's our last day of men's major golf. We have an amazing women's major going to the Old Course. I have some questions for you about the Old Course versus Troon, and just how do you test the men's golfers anymore? But it's our last men's major of the year. Fortunately, now the playoffs have taken on an amplified importance because we have a raging hot player of the year debate that's just initiated with Xander winning his second major. One more than Scottie Scheffler.
I was going to save this, but did you see that somebody got asked a FedExCup question?
No.
That was good blocky there.
No, blocky made Nace. Blocky threw his hat in the ring this week. He made Nace with Wayne Gretzky. We should get minute 3. We got to get a blocky mention in here.
Somebody asked Adam Scott about the FedExCup.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
Adam Scott? I guess he's what are they saying?
You know what? I appreciate that they at least had the awareness to apologize before the question. Said apologies for the non-open question, but one benefit is that you're projected 41st on the FedEx Cup.
No way. No, like nitty gritty question. I thought it was some like fluffy. This had to be a PGAtour.com writer. Had to be. They should yank the credential. This is really disrespectful to the Open Championship.
And obviously, with the difficulties getting into some of the signature events this year, would that be a relief to ride through to the BMW and guarantee those signature events next year?
I can't believe that was asked.
Here's his answer. Yeah, sure. To be honest.
Yeah, sure. That's about the enthusiasm that question deserves. Yeah. After he's just this old lion, really kind of contended through brutal conditions at the Open.
I knew you'd like this. I knew you'd love this.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. To be honest, if that's where I'm projected to go, I'll dream big and hope for Atlanta right now. I'm trending, I would say.
Oh, I don't want to get into like we're going to TPC Twin Cities. It's just going to be such a fall. Nothing against Minnesota.
I can't wait for TPC Twin Cities.
It's going to be such a dramatic fall. But congrats to Xander Schauffele.
Doesn't TPC Sod Farm have more balls in the water? It's like
one of
the 3 or 4 most balls in the water stops.
Yeah, it's the course of 10,000 man-made lakes.
That's what we get to look forward to. Let's talk about Xander. Now we're doing to Xander what Biden did to Xander.
No, we'll get plenty of Xander. He had top 10 in all 4 majors, won 2 of them, shot 65 on Sunday again. I'd consider it a little more impressive than a 65 of Valhalla, though that was impressive nonetheless with guys chasing and nipping and tucking. It was just how you get to it is a little different.
To be fair, he agreed with you. He said that this was the best round he's ever played. And
he said it was the very tippy top, right?
Yeah.
The tippy top round. I think it was an inward 31 on
insane.
The quote unquote, it is the harder 9, much harder 9. The win,
arguably one of the hardest 9s in championship golf. Like, you put it up there at the top of the list. As you said, obviously the wind wasn't humming, but it's still an extraordinarily hard 9. And you saw basically everybody he was playing against struggle with that 9 coming in.
It's provoking. It's prompting a lot of questions. Like, this guy we knew was awesome. He had 12 top 10s, I believe, in majors. I saw Justin Wright shared. He's the only guy this year with top 40 in all strokes gained. He's in the top 40 in all strokes gained categories on the PGA Tour. Like, a great, great player. The player of the year debate, whatever, notwithstanding. We'll figure out where he's won both majors. You just wonder, like, did Detective Gillis alter the entire course of the summer when he removed Scottie, essentially?
Get out of here.
Open the floodgates
here with that.
My whole floodgates. I'm making a floodgates point here.
Hold on.
This feels like he's locked in.
You're blaming Gillis. You're blaming the wrong guy.
Who should I be blaming?
The chaplain.
I mean, he's a man of God. He's taken enough abuse in this podcast in the last 2.5 months.
The Gillis take is tired. The chaplain's the person that we need to be looking at.
Either way, I mean, I don't know if Xander's career changed at Valhalla, but certainly something, he was already a great player, and now we're seeing it. I hate when people like lean on the Tiger-like crutch, right? Like, people throw that out as Tiger-like. It was Tiger-like. I would say the one aspect of today that felt Tiger-like was this thing felt like such a competitive major championship and such a mad dash and like this leaderboard scattering up and down. And then like 30 minutes, just the entire air was taken out of the whole thing. You're like, yep, right. Yep. I think the birdie at 13 and 14 pretty much did it. 11,
the tee shot at 15.
Yeah.
It's like you're thinking, okay, he's got a run going. And then the tee shot on 15, it's just like, oh, he's got like 9 iron and 15. This hole that is brutally hard. It was extraordinarily impressive. You birdie 11, 13, and 14. I mean, that's like amazing.
You kind of already know he's the best golfer on the first page of the leaderboard, but like, that's a 1-round sample size. That doesn't always matter. And the thing that Tiger likes was just those other guys kind of knew it then. The air was gone. Rose, Billy Boy, valiant as he is, came in with 3 straight birdies. The valiant one. But it was interesting in that way. That just, boom, this is, okay, he's the best player on the leaderboard, and he just went and did it, and the air is gone. And that was crazy, crazy impressive.
Yeah, 65 to win on a day where it seemed like it was anybody's competition. He did it. I think the other thing about it is like he did it in a similar position to Scottie Scheffler was in, who is, I think there you can throw an arguably out there. I would probably still lean towards Scheffler being the best player. I think Xander's the most well-rounded, but Scheffler has the strongest attributes. And I think, to do it in the fashion he did it, where he just basically just slammed the door on everyone, it's a testament to just I think like how he's improved, and we talked a lot about this with the PGA, but like having that extra speed that he's picked up and not sacrificing anything else. Like, it's so hard to improve in golf without taking your eye off the ball with some other aspect of your game.
Sure.
And he's just gone to a whole different level this year. And I think like where I'm at with Xander now is wondering, where does he fall in the hierarchy?
I think there's some big questions. Yeah, some big ponderings coming out of this.
Like, and I want to give Joseph Lamagna some credit. Before this major, he was texting me and you. If you look at Xander and Rahm's major profile, it's our entire career. Really. It's not very far off, and you could make an argument based off of Xander's major performance. He had more top tens and less appearances than Rahm, that it might be better. Now, I mean, they're roughly the same age. Xander's got just as many majors now, and I think like you look at it, and it's a very similar. I think you could say Xander's a better player than Jon Rahm. It's not like categorically, like that's not a ridiculous statement. And I don't think before the week, I thought that was a really interesting,
Well, I think a Joseph point was that like we kind of didn't think of them necessarily in the same class. Xander, great, but Rahm's sort of in this super elite class when they're much closer than we think. And I think they're probably for sure in the same class now, right?
Yeah,
after
exactly.
this. And what I love today or this week is you talked about that speed he added. He's like, well, I mean, I didn't make a birdie on a par 5 until the 6th hole today. He birdied the 8th every day until Sunday. He mixed it up. He's like, I have all this speed. I need to use it when it's right. Like, why add it if you're not going to use it? Figured out when to use it today, when to lean on it and put the pedal down. But, he birdied like the easiest hole, 7, right? One of the easier holes. Made sure to send it there. Great little delicate kind of half wedge to the back there. And then he birdied the hardest hole, the only birdie of the day. Like, it was just a great variety of haven't birdied a par 5, birdied the 8th. He did it in so many different ways that clearly you need to be the multi-dimensional player to win this kind of championship on this particular week. And I think that was all on display. And he clearly jumps into a massive class, as many people were pointing out. Go ahead, you want to jump in there?
My wife was looking in the window.
Oh, okay,
right
it looked like you wanted to interrupt me, but many people pointed out his historic performance at the Masters and U.S. Open has been better than the 2 he won this year. I'm not going to say he's like the first to get to the Grand Slam, but it just feels like he's and quite honestly, Faxon talked about we don't measure grit. We have all this data, but we don't measure grit. There is like a mental aspect to Xander, who we saw Shane Lowry kind of unravel a bit on Saturday. Xander just doesn't get upset. He doesn't get mad. He seems perfect for this moment of major championship tests, whether it's windy, shitty, whether it's just it's a birdie fest race. So there's like a mental aspect too to all the other stuff. So it seems like, we always get carried away when a guy wins and we're like, oh, he's the next, he's going to win 10, he's going to 8. But everything he's done before this year sort of made it seem like this year was possible and more. So I don't know where we go next, but it seems like there are bigger and better things even coming. So
I mean, the thing about Xander too is just when he came into the year, and this had been, I thought, one of the big stories in major golf that wasn't really talked about that much was him and Cantlay with like their obscene amounts of weeks in the top 10 of the rankings without major wins, the 2 of them. And now you look at it with the 2 wins, and he is, I think, 30 now. So let's just say he's got. I mean, it's always hard to figure out. Like, does he have four really strong years left? Like, that's always going to be the question with all these guys, I think, now. But it feels like he's still going up. And that could be easily, golf's a fickle game. It could go away just as quickly as it comes. But if you give him 4 more years, 16 more cracks at it, I think like the thing is you're starting to look at a generational player when you think about it from that lens. If he's able to maintain the level of play that he's been on, and I think this is so different than like a Wyndham Clark discussion, where I think like we were pretty measured with Wyndham Clark of like, we're probably only going to get like 4 years, 5 years max with Wyndham Clark. And I think we'll talk about Wyndham Clark later. But with Xander, there's already such a baseline success. He came on the scene. And I think the thing about Xander is like his game is better suited for majors than anything else. Like it's almost a disservice to the quality of his game that they play the vast majority of golf on the PGA Tour. And there are dozens of quotes in press conferences that back up why the PGA Tour kind of stinks compared to what we saw this week.
I was wondering if they were just humoring us this week. I wrote down it's just one after another about one-dimensional style we usually play.
Xander swiped at it.
What did he say? What did Xander say? I didn't have that one.
Xander had here we go. It's a completely different style of golf. It makes you play shots and have different ball positions. And then he went on to like say it's so much more risk reward, so on and so forth. I don't have the full quote.
Is there a weakness like with Xander? Is there something like he does bad? I think like you could kind of it's Scottie, something might have drawn out there at Pinehurst, right? That you talked about with the not knowing where to miss, not having a clear place to miss, and
the putter, not being able to hit the sweet spot of a putter.
We're gonna get Scottie here in a minute.
That's a weakness.
I just like, yeah, sure. Xander might not do well at a 3M Open because it's so consolidated and compressed, but he would do well. I wouldn't doubt that he could do well. I don't doubt that he's probably going to contend at the Olympics again. And then throughout the playoffs, we know he kills it. Like there's just not a lot of, and the Open was the one he hadn't done great at, but he'd won a Scottish Open. He's like, I figured out the formula to coming over here. Or
he almost won at Carnoustie.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Xander, and this was a point about Scottie, is that when you go to places like TPC Minnesota, it's almost harder for those guys to win at a Craig Ranch or a TPC Minnesota than here, because it doesn't give them an opportunity to really vastly separate themselves with their extraordinary talent the way the venues like here or Augusta National or Pinehurst. Valhalla was kind of TPC Minnesota where he ended up winning, but this one was much more emphatic. This was much more clear, I think, on Sunday afternoon who the best player in the world was. It was he slammed the door shut, and I think if they played another 18 holes, it probably just continues to widen. The gulf widens. And I mean, to go out in tough conditions on Saturday and shoot 69, I mean, and
under par. Yep.
I think like probably one of the under the radar great rounds of the day yesterday. Probably didn't give it enough respect how good that round was that he played yesterday, and then back it up with the 65 today. Just an unbelievable weekend.
Anything jump out to you today? I mean, for me, I think the shot on 11 was crazy. It was a little bit of luck, or a little bit of good fortune. He talked about it wasn't directly online, but what was smart and I would say Xander. Look, he's not the most interesting guy to listen to, right? I don't think he's like dumb or inarticulate or anything like that. He just plays it. He's pretty vanilla and by the book. He even sometimes, he's done a few interviews on Golf Channel that like he gets really into the interesting nitty gritty. And today he talked about the flyer lie from the left at 11. He's like, normally that's, I think he said like a 7 iron, but what we did was hit a pitching wedge. And be just like, that's a pretty big difference, and just some of that's his caddy. A lot of that's him. He's a highly intelligent golfer who's obviously figured it out. And that hole that was an incredible shot. And then capping it off just takes the air out of everything. Because Rosey was pushing him there. Rosey like kind of had the lead, and then it flipped there at 10 and 11. And that was it.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you want to quantify it, I think, like, Xander, when you were watching him play Rose, play with Rose, they were playing right next to each other. You saw the difference is that Xander was a little bit longer. When he was a little bit longer, he hit his approach shots a little bit closer. And, Rose hit a lot of great putts that burned the edges, but they were always seemingly from 25 feet. Whereas, Xander's was just so much. I mean, it just felt so much easier, right? Where he's hitting, it even goes to the birdie on 7, where he's just hitting this little wedge in there, right?
Yeah.
And that's the value of that added distance. That what it's given him is this little extra horsepower that can turn. It just makes everything a little bit easier when you move it 15, 20 yards further, and all of a sudden you're getting shorter clubs in your hands. Where it really matters is on super challenging golf courses and in moments like, I think that's the thing. What I love too is like he talked about, the idea of like, let's find some places to use the driver as a weapon. It turns out that it's not just, you just don't play out of the same playbook every day. You got to react to what the defense is giving you in terms of the course, and find places where, it might not be as ideal to hit the driver. The numbers might say, hey, you want to lay back a little bit, but he said, he found a few places where he could push it up and gain a bigger advantage from that. And I think that's like the thing I noticed too with like Lowry early in the week. Lowry was very aggressive off the tee in some places and generate, like, I think that's one of the things that I took away. Like, I don't think it's like smart. Rory, you saw on Friday, go for broke, like everywhere. It just tries to just bash driver up there everywhere. Troon is a golf course though, where if you pick your spots, you can gain huge advantages because of the general herd mentality there is to lay back a lot. And that's where Troon gets you, is that eventually you're going to miss a mid iron in a crosswind. Like it kind of just adds up to you over time, and where you can push up and get into those wedge spots. I was watching like that Xander shot on 7. He was so close. And it's like, you saw whether it was Horschel or Rose, and like players that laid back further, it's just like 130 yards into that green. All of a sudden in a crosswind, it was like, that's not an easy shot. It didn't look as easy where Rahm or Xander got it up to.
Yeah, I think Scottie and I think Dan, who's he playing with? Dan Brown today.
Yeah.
Scottie, they both sent it up there and chipped it to like 2 feet, 3 feet when they moved it. Thriston was sending it early. He was booming away too.
He was impressive.
Yeah. So anyway, Xander, I think sometimes when we talk about a lawn, it means that's all he is. And clearly he's longer than Rose, but he's also, today, he was better.
He's super
strategist,
long.
great putter, great all these things. So you talked about the value of extra yards. You know where you can get the value of extra yards? Getting shorter clubs in your hands is by going to Club Champion. And Xander's found it. You can find it too. Maybe not in the same fashion or form or style in any way, but you can. As fitted golfers find over 20 extra yards off the tee on average. They tighten that dispersion chart too a little bit. Figure out how you can get better. Get some real expert analysis, some data, some informed choices on how you can buy and spend your equipment. You go to clubchampion.com, use the promo code FriedEgg. They've upped our offer here. They sweetened the pot here just this week.
Splash in the pot.
They came in with a little extra sugar. $100 full bag fitting with a club purchase, or $50 for any other fitting type with a purchase. So $100 full bag, $50 for any other type with a club purchase. The promo code is FriedEgg, and clubchampion.com. is the website. They've got 65,000 hittable head and shaft combos. Again, if you're going to try to spend money on clubs, it's best to do it informed and fitted and with someone who knows what they're doing. And they have those highly trained master fitters at Club Champion. Again, promo code's Fried Egg. All right. You got enough Xander? Anything else? You were going to say super freaking long, I think was what you were saying.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he's like probably one of the 5 best drivers of the golf ball there are.
Yeah.
And
How
I don't
many
think
majors does he win?
Would you go over under 3.5?
We always are prisoner of the moment here.
We said 2.5, I believe, after Valhalla.
I think I said over on that, I believe.
We're going to have to check the tapes.
I believe I said over on
It's
Xander.
a lot for a guy that you said was overrated.
I said the discourse around him was overrated. Just everybody thought they were hipster.
You know what? I feel like my take at Shinnecock, the Shinnecock preview show on Fried Egg from years ago has aged remarkably well. Saying
what was that?
I said he was underrated.
Is that when we did that?
I think it was either the recap or the preview.
Okay. All right. Maybe it was Shinnecock.
I, for some reason, have a vivid memory being in a East Hampton's bed and breakfast.
Yeah. I think over. He like the whole mental thing. The track record of being in the top 10 like every time at the Masters and US Open.
So you're now going Grand Slam talk.
I think. I think I'm undaunted by the lofty expectations. I think I'm going over. What about you?
I'm gonna go under. These are hard to win. I know
Under
he just won 2.
Okay.
I don't know.
Oh no, bro.
I think these careers shift on such a dime. Like, look at JT.
Except Xander's career hasn't shifted. Like, this is who he's been. He's been in all these top 10s. This is like kind of the talent he's been for 6, 7, 8 years now.
It's just hard to know. Is he gonna keep and obviously this is but does he just keep going up? That's the thing. Does he's improved so much in the last year? Is that improvement done? Because if the improvement's done, that's where you get yourself sometimes into trouble of like looking under the next rock, right?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah,
but like there are like some
he's
great
at a pretty
things.
High
like
level. That's just
I can't think of Xander ever having an injury problem. Like these are like
think about that before we talked. Yeah,
the positives of like never having an injury problem. We haven't ever seen him have like a dip in play even.
No, that's sort of what I'm getting at. He's kind of the player. This is who he's been for 8 years. Now he's just pushed across the line twice. It's interesting. There's not a lot of volatility to his record and game. There is a little bit of volatility to Scottie Scheffler. We're gonna have the big player of the year debate. You say it's still Scottie. There's still weighty, meaty playoffs ahead. Didn't you say it's Scottie? Player of the year? If you're deciding tomorrow, I don't know. I think kind of just reducing it to just 2 majors versus 1 is probably silly, but it's a worthwhile discussion. Scottie, the other best player in the world, comes up short. He was not near runner-up. Finishes T7, 1 under. Your pick to win on Saturday night. He 3-putts from about 7 feet on 9, and then boom, out of here. Gone. See ya. From a par putt to a double bogey.
He 4-putted. He putted from short of the green.
Sure. Well, he 3-putted from 6 feet after that. That's all I know. A little under 7 feet. He's gone. What do we make of Scottie Scheffler after this? He talked about how the greens were not true. They're not the truest of surfaces. They're really good for links. This was Saturday night after he was second to last in strokes gained putting. They're not the truest of surfaces. They're really good for links, but they're obviously not perfect. And it just hops offline and balls don't go in. Didn't go in. That sounds a little bit like the Pinehurst. You hit it and you can't, unpredictable. The greens aren't true and they're not perfect. And doesn't that sound like that to you? A little bit of unpredictability about the greens not being true or perfect for him. And he obviously his putting issues travel to not true, perfect and imperfect greens.
You know what screams to me? I'm not a very good putter. You had to make committed strokes out here. And I think that's the big takeaway for me, is that one of the big takeaways is the slower greens. I think it's just a better formula for golf. The pace of play is better. But then also I think just like the fact that you have to make strokes on 8-footers, it's not just like I just have to, get the ball rolling and it's going to go in. I think we saw it. Like we saw players. They talked. I thought Luke Donald was like. I don't think Luke Donald was like great on like when they cut to him face on with like give us 3 minutes of dialogue. But what I do love about Luke Donald is like the little insights. And he talked about like having acceleration. It was the thing that Rory shared through it. Through the stroke.
Gotta have Rory some pop, right?
Yeah.
On it. Yeah.
And you could see it like clear as day. He was calling it out as it went on. Like, Scottie's stroke just doesn't look good. I think like Scottie's just not a very good putter. And I think that's like, we're talking about and I think like if you wanted the difference between Scottie's a better iron player, a far superior iron player to Xander Schauffele. But Xander's a certifiably great putter, like a very great putter. And I think that's where, they're different players, but like to me, where I'm at with Scottie is that I put this in my notes. He's like a zombie at these majors.
Good, bad, good and bad.
No, good. I mean, like he's just like unkillable.
Yeah.
Like you just like you always like yesterday he had those like he kind of was falling apart on the back nine. I'm like, oh, he's escorted himself out of this tournament, and it's like nope, he's like a foot on 17, and he's like it's like oh he's back, and like today I felt the same way until the 4-putt. The 4-putt, the wheels were off. How about the shot he hit on 18? I guess nobody saw it. Nobody on NBC. I was caught it on the world feed.
Oh, the drive. Yeah, the drive. We'll talk about NBC later. But yes. I mean, that was
like
just
a quack hook 3-iron.
Holy cow. Haven't seen that. I mean, that was he went to the sand scrape area over there on the left. That was out of a 15 handicap. You don't see that from Scottie anymore, at least. Or I haven't. I just think with the putting, it's part of the package. It's just always going to be part of the package. It's like, you have this elite talent. What I analogize it to is like Joel Embiid or something. Like he's an elite talent, probably the best player in the league, or could be the best player, but there's an injury, there's a health issue. It's just always going to be there. Or Kawhi, maybe on a more severe level. Like an incredible player. Sometimes he's healthy, sometimes he's not. And Scheffler will just be that. Like, there'll be a stretch where the putter is good, stretch when the putter's not. But he's an elite, otherworldly talent, and it's just part of who he is. And God forbid, help the rest of the league if he the putter is healthy, quote unquote, for a full year. It's just part of the package, though. It's just part of what you got to accept about who he is as a whole, incredibly elite talent.
I think like if we're gonna look at it, I think the Opens is going to be his weakest major, just in terms of I think like if it gets really hard, it's a great spot for him. Like if it gets really windy, it's probably the best suited for him outside of the greens. But the issue, I think like he just thrives on predictability. And that goes from the tee through the green. And PGA Tour setups where there's restrictions on what grade slope you can put pins, and the speed is the same week in, week out. That plays right into his repertoire. It's hard to like criticize Scottie Scheffler at all because he's such a great player. But I think this is a player that would become a much better player if the tour played more diverse places.
Are you calling Augusta National predictable?
I think his game fits so well. I mean, like
it lets his creativity that he talked about shine a little bit, right?
Yeah,
like work it and.
Well, the other thing is it's the same reason that with Jordan Spieth that Augusta's like, it's like the idea of like, I can just dump it over here and it's a hardship, but I'm so good. I mean, like his bunker shots today, he was in some tough spots and it's just like, Jesus, it's just unbelievable around the greens. It's I mean, he's such a supremely gifted player outside of the putter.
You would think that sets up well for an Open, though. Similar, right? That kind of creativity that's worked well for Spieth, but it's just the putting. The putting problems are accentuated as well.
I think those slow greens. If you like, to me, it looked like he was having trouble hitting the sweet spot and on the putter,
right?
And like that's the issue: is the slower the greens are, the more you have to hit the putter solid. You know?
Yep.
And to me, it doesn't look like it looked like he had no confidence. I would say the other aspect of this is, you know what, Scottie Scheffler didn't get over there and played last week, and I think that is one other thing. He's Xander a new dad. He's a new dad, and he's played a ton of golf this year. And I think you could probably point one of the issues of the condensed schedule, the compressed schedule with the majors, is there's no break. And Scottie, I think he probably did the right thing for him. He probably needed a break. He probably wanted to enjoy early life with a young kid. But if he was going to say, if he wanted to best prepare himself for this major, I think it's like inexcusable not to go to Scotland or Ireland or whatever it is the week before. I mean, Xander talked about it's just a huge...
On the putting, especially Xander talked about that.
Putting. The time change, all the factors, and I think like the putting is where you could poke holes. Like, to me, Scottie just needs to play more links golf.
Yeah, well, that opportunities are few and far between. Which brings us to, we'll talk about Billy Boy here and Justin Rose in a minute, but let's bring it, while we're on it, let's bring it to the course, Royal Troon. How did you think? What did you make of Royal Troon? I think there's case to be made that it's among the best courses for a men's championship test. I think because of a little bit of that consistency in wind. I mean, reliability, not consistency. It was inconsistent this week in terms of direction, but there's a little bit of reliability in wind. It has that distance if needed on the back nine, according to some, set up unfairly on Saturday. We'll talk about that. I would like your reaction to that. But I think there's a real argument to be made. It's like a better championship test for right now for the men than the old course, because of it has a more reliable wind. It has certainly like the length. The old course is putting tees on whatever out of bounds. Not that this, hasn't been adjusted for this year too. I'm not even just picking out the old course. Not picking on that at all. It's just throwing it out there. It seems like a very good hit the sweet spot. And maybe that says more about the current state of men's championship golf than it does the courses. But it really seems to hit the sweet spot with 6 easy holes-ish, but could be hard depending on the wind. The sort of circle around the postage stamp where you get your first wind off the left of that's what I love. The range, it's off the right the whole time. Then you go out the whole time. And then the first left wind you get is on this 100, to a thimble or a postage stamp, as it were. It just seems like a really good championship venue for modern men's pro golf.
Yeah, I like it. I'm not.
You're not as enthusiastic.
I think
this is to say nothing of the course itself, but how it sets up for a championship, I think is awesome.
I just think one of the things I appreciate about the Open and the US Open is variety in tests. And what I loved about Troon is that it is a different test than the old course or than Carnoustie, And I think like it's a test of crosswinds. Like it is, how can you control your ball? It's all about shape and trajectory. It's a delight to watch golf at Troon. I think the golf course is really good. I love it as a rotapiece. Like what I think like what I would hesitate on with people, I think there's going to be a natural, we can make more courses like Troon. We need to narrow the fairways up at, 320 yards, and that's how we make it more like Troon. What Troon, what Troon's like huge advantages are is like the natural conditions and the way the golf course is routed, and that's much harder to replicate. Like they have a reliable crosswind and a routing that puts you in the crosswind for 80+% of the round. And that is what makes Troon Troon, is the natural setting. And it's the idea, like what I think makes most golf courses great is leaning into your natural advantages. And Troon certainly leans into its natural advantages of we are exposed, we're on the coast, and the wind blows across this coast and it comes across you all day long, and it's going to beat you up all day long. And it's going to wear you out. It just wears you out. And it gets to the back nine and it ramps up. It has like a really neat cadence of like certain golf courses hit you at different times. It punches. It just is like we saw it on Saturday more so than anything. It's just like it's hitting harder at the end when you're more fatigued and when you're more worn out mentally. It's beautiful from that standpoint. I think it's just like important to always remember that these in particular the Open Championships are about showcasing the great golf in the UK, and maybe Ireland's coming here soon, but like it's showcasing golf there. In America, the US Open is about showcasing the great golf in America. And we should want variety of like having cool different tests is neat. It's the dynamic of it. And like people, if you're going to say, oh, it's better test than the old course. Like last time I checked, the old course, the 150th was pretty damn good tournament, right?
Oh yeah. Great leaderboard, just like Valhalla. It had a great tournament. Oh, I agree with you on the variety point. But I guess my point is that like Troon did nothing. It only went up in my eyes as on in and of itself, not vis-a-vis anything else. Like I loved it and would like to see it again. One
of my favorite things was the par fives. You said Xander hadn't made a birdie before Sunday.
6. Yeah.
You know what John Rahm played the par fives this week?
No. What'd he play? Over par?
3 over par.
It's crazy.
They weren't gimmies.
Awesome. Yeah. A little bit of blindness they throw at you. Different winds, different directions. I thought Bobby Mack and Phil were interesting. Like, we got screwed. The lefties, it's like a manager brings in the lefty 1-out guy out of the bullpen just to strike him out. Like lefties had an advantage until that wind switched on us. And then we got jammed, completely jammed. The wind changing the first 2 days because they would normally have an advantage. They talked about that the whole way in. One more point on the wind. And I lean on Daniel Hillier, of all people, or Hillier, the Kiwi. This was an interesting quote I dug out on Saturday, Andy. Emphasized a point of like, we get so hung up on the distance debate of like, everything's going 400 yards. But of course, as we talk about, the bigger issue is like, just bad hits aren't penalized and you can just swing and just try to speed it up and not worry about the bad hit. Hillier said, on Saturday, you get your number, the wind, you get your number, your yardage, whatever it is, you actually hit it with confidence normally. Whereas when it's blowing 30 or 40 kilometers, if you slightly mishit it, you can spin one up in the air. And the difference, this is the whole nut of the whole thing. The difference between hitting a good shot and a really bad shot is drastic. And it just gives you a bit more leeway when you're not in the wind. So the difference between a good shot and a really bad shot is dramatic on a mishit. And it's like nature's rollback. Of course, as you've said, this cannot be replicated often or in the same degree as it did at Troon. But I thought that was a really interesting answer, like a real punishment for a mishit, even with the modern equipment.
The best way to test any golfer anywhere is great natural environment, firm turf, wind, and that's what we got in spades this week. That's why people were so compelled by it. Not only was the wind the opposite direction, but it was a strong wind, right? It was never like weak. The weakest it felt was yesterday morning, and then this afternoon.
A little late today.
Yeah, late today. But like for the most part, these guys played in just sustained strong winds, and the turf was firm enough. I don't think it was even nuclear firm, but you saw how cool was 17 playing on Saturday. on Friday, when guys you had to land it just in the perfect spot over the ridge. If you landed it into the ridge, it died. You had to land it just 10 yards short of the green, and it would release on, and it was really, you had to hit a great shot to hold the green. Then you flip it the next day, the wind's coming the complete opposite way, and you got guys pulling out 3-wood and having to hit 3-wood and driver to get it there. I mean, it was amazing. It was just, I think for me, I think I'd put Portrush, the old course, up at the top of the barrel. The old course has so much, you would say, oh, if you took away the history, but part of it is the history, the town, everything that makes the old course such a romantic place to have it. I think Troon is probably in that second tier of courses for me. To me, the one that is probably becoming my least favorite of all of them is Birkdale. I don't have much interest in Birkdale.
Okay. That's next year, right?
No, Portrush and then
Portrush. I'm sorry, Portrush.
I think it's
Birkdale.
the 26th. When I think back to Birkdale, there was very little wind.
Because just the guy won. That's why.
That's not at all why. I think it's I like the image I'm seared into my mind is Brendan Grace just
seared 62.
Yeah. And I think the RNA might have baited that 62 though. Put it out there for him
for a rollback to false flag for a rollback. I think they're at an interesting point with the Rota. Troon is firmly in there. We'll see. It sounds like Muirfield is maybe coming back on. As someone
I think that's the other one that could be from a golf standpoint, maybe not atmosphere, but from a golf standpoint, that's the top of the bucket, top
of the tier. Yeah, it sounds like that may be imminent too. St. George's was pretty good 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, someone put it to me this morning, they're at an interesting point where the RNA with the attendance that I think the course, they want the courses more than the courses want them at this point, and they're desperately trying to find variety and obviously hit that whatever the infrastructure needs and requirements are. So it's an interesting spot. I think Troon has solidified it certainly after this week. A really good test. Anything else on that? I mean, postage stamp was amazing. Just the variety and kind of all the postage stamp. I was like, there's so much hype around this. I'm sick of it. And it kind of lived up to everything. I loved watching it every day. So
it's such a fun hole to watch. And it's just, it shows I think one of the things about Troon, the depth of the bunkers, it'd be a disaster for everyday golfer. But in terms of pro golf, they're terrifying bunkers, and you can see the influence it has. And I this is going back. I don't want to bash too much on the PGA Tour, but it's just so different experience, such a different experience watching golf when players are completely terrified of bunkers versus what we see week in, week out, where where golfers, when they hit a bad shot, are rooting for the ball to go in the bunker, right?
Yeah.
You think about the first and second hole at Troon and what those bunkers do on those holes is if that was the PGA Tour, everybody would be just sending driver up there and having a little pitch in. But at Troon, it's most guys are laying back, and the guys that when they have driver out, you get on the edge of your seat because you're excited to watch. And I think that's what the vast majority of pro golf is missing, is that Troon and the Open in general just plays on the edge so much, right? Where whether the ball's rolling and you're not sure where it's going to go, whether it's the off fairway fescue where you never know what you're always like, how's his lie going to be? Like I remember Rory on Friday couldn't even move his lie. Then you heard Xander gets this terrible lie on, I can't remember what hole, and he gets an incredible shot onto the green. Like they're like, this is one of the worst lies I've seen this week, and he gets it on the green. That was an incredible shot on the back nine by Xander. I can't remember what hole it was on, but like there's this, you're never sure about where the ball is going to end up, and it leads to a heightened viewing experience, right? Like you're
going in the back, or is it going to get into the middle? Yeah.
And like, is it good or bad? Like it's constantly blurred. Like the Open lives in gray versus the PGA Tour is much more black and white golf.
Yeah. A few players talked about that. They said they're much deeper than Old Course, Renaissance. Like they're deeper here. And it's like I think Fitz said it's like a 70-30. Like, 70% of the time you don't have a shot, 30% of the time you do. It's just kind of like that, speaking to your sort of grayness about it, right?
I guess like every year we get to the Masters, we say it's our favorite major. Then we come here and it's like always like it might be my favorite major. If you had to rate the majors right now in terms of your interests, what would you do? Overall, like all together.
I mean, I think like I think this was the most fun I had watching golf this year. And I don't know, maybe not. I would say the Pinehurst was the greatest major that I've been to.
Well, I'm not saying like this year's majors. I'm saying just in general.
I know. I think it's the Open, but again, we're coming right off it.
Prisoner of the moment.
Listening to the players talk about the way they do. I think probably, Andy, what it is it gets us so far off a field from the PGA Tour stuff that you've talked about too. It's just like this real cleanse and salve when you need it most. And that's why it's only emphasized in that way, or added to.
I agree. There's a variety aspect of it. I think it's probably my favorite. I love the Masters for a lot of reasons, and I think there's like this great pomp and circumstance. Like it's just like a great atmosphere that the Masters has, and this transcendent aspect of the Masters in the greater sport, and how it's the major that brings us into like general sports. But for me, from like a golf nut standpoint, from a golf like I'm not a huge fan of a golf nerd terminology, but like someone who's just so deep into golf and loves everything about it. I don't know how this isn't the one. This is the one that has the real shot making. And I think everything's just accentuated because of the natural conditions. And I like every year I leave this week thinking about like, if the vast majority of golf was played on links courses, how drastically different would the world's top players be?
It's a fair question. I think the golf is like Saturday was so good. I think if you were at like a US Open or something and your final four were Russell Henley, Sam Burns, Thriston Lawrence, and Billy Horschel, you'd be like, oof. But we came off of Saturday, like that was the greatest watching of like 4 hours of the year. That was so fun. And it's just it's not as dependent on the stars doing well. And they got the star or the best player doing well on Sunday. Any quibbles about Saturday? Just to put a bow on that. I saw there were some caddies saying it was unfair. Lowry said the tee boxes should have been moved up. It was amazing viewing for us, 3-woods and drivers. And, we don't need to go through all the quotes, but the hardest holes they've ever played. I don't know how you do that. It was a late switch. They set it up based on what they thought was going to be happening.
Not to mention the guys in the morning were going out and just lighting it up. So if you move them up even further, scores are even lower from the morning. It might have screwed up the wave, the differential, like even more.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Thriston Lawrence, if it isn't for the weather, we don't get the Tristan Lawrence. I don't want to keep
He's
this.
Thriston.
He's Thriston on this podcast. Always has, always will be Thriston. But we don't get that story if it's a docile Saturday, right? all the way
No.
through and through. Like that, it brought everybody back together, bunched up that leaderboard, and then it set up the horse race we had on Sunday, which was fun. It was fun too in terms of variety of majors where, at the US Open, we kind of had, two Goliaths punching back and forth all day Sunday. This one was like a heat, and it was like the thoroughbred just breaking out of it,
last turn or the last turn. Yeah. Yeah, you're talking about lighting up the morning. They're the guys who lit it up in the morning. What we light up each morning is the coffee machine button. A Good Walk coffee. We fill our grounds.
Best part of the day.
I held off the last 2 days just because I knew it was like I know it's cold brew season, but just I could not wait for the first warm mug of Burundi blend. I held off. I did a bunch of reading of transcripts or stats or notes. And I was just I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna do some work, really put myself through the paces before I earn that first cup of coffee. And we had our Good Walk Burundi blend. That is going away after the Open. I think we still have a few left. You go to goodwalkcoffee.com/shotgun to peruse. We've got light, medium, light/medium, I believe. And then this is a light roast, the Open blend. It's a way to get something you like, way to support us. We are very fortunate that any of you listen to us. People have talked about us going beyond a Patreon or a Substack, stuff like that. But we figured this was a good middle ground to actually get consumable good while also supporting the podcast. And we've done it with a company that we really have come, really want, kind of company we want to partner with in Good Walk Coffee. Golfers themselves, and they've been awesome to work with. So you go to goodwalkcoffee.com/shotgun. Use the promo code SGS and you get 20% off your order. And then you get 10% off if you're a subscriber off every order. So thanks to them for their massive support all year, but certainly this week. All right, where would you like to go next? Billy and Rose, we've kind of neglected to this point. I don't have a ton to say on them other than I was massively impressed. That's not very profound, but certainly different styles. Billy Boy, late Saturday, that's a 9 that will stick with me forever. Really impressive. And the same for Justin Rose, just a guy who's, I think Gabby Herzig made the point on Twitter, somebody in the era when guys aren't even trying to qualify because they've made a bunch of money and going home. Rose has done a lot in his career, obviously still wants to win the Open. I think it's massively admirable that he went through qualifying and then was there until literally about the last 90 minutes. I'm massively impressed by both.
You feel for Justin Rose.
Yeah, probably probably his best chance at an Open. We'll see.
And he played alongside Xander, where for most of the day, it seemed like he was the guy in that group. And then Xander hit kind of a gas pedal that Justin Rose doesn't have anymore. Justin Rose probably looked at him and thought, that was me at one point. I was the best player in the world, and that's what I could do. I mean,
Rose, by the way, I think was in the hard part of the draw the whole way through.
The whole way through. The
late Saturday and the bad draw on the first two. Go ahead. So part of you?
Fourth runner-up in his career in a major. That's tough. You talk about just guys that you just think about the list of players who've won 1 versus 2 majors, and I think it goes down to 88 players have won 2 majors, and something close to 300 players have won 1. To me, it feels like Justin Rose belongs to be in the top 100 players of all time, roughly. Based off of major wins. You look at his career too. It's there's no weak major, right? He's played well in every major. And I think that's I don't know. I feel for him, and I thought he was really good in his post-round presser talking about Xander, and talking about, golf. He played great. He got the raw end of the draw, and I think for his career, you kind of look at it and it's he's had a lot of bad breaks in majors that have gone against him.
Yeah. Billy Boy, I don't know. I don't know if we'll see him again at a major like this. He seems to, per his words, really figured out uh, or attempted to figure out how to be better, not being such a perfectionist. It felt like everything lined up. It was great to hear him.
This is the best major year of his career.
Yeah, he's done well. So if he's talking about, I just get so beat up because you're going to get jammed in majors. And as we've seen on some featured group streams at the Masters on some Saturday mornings, when he starts getting jammed, it compounds on itself. So if he's kind of changed that mentality about everything needing to be perfect, maybe he has figured out a little something. This may be as close as he gets. But he's opened himself up, as we talked about that too. Like, he plays links events in the Dunhill. He plays world golf. Thought it was impressive. Like, he was asked about Thriston Lawrence, right? He's like, oh yeah, I mean, I know, I follow him closely. I don't think like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with his work on the DP World Tour. I follow the DP World Tour. I'm in the deep. Like, I don't think a lot of like top American players would have a point of reference when they're asked about Thriston Lawrence, is all I'm saying. But Billy, a good week for him.
I think he's just a golf nut, That's the thing. It's it's what you appreciate about certain guys, and I think that's probably why in his late 30s he's getting better. He's evolving, he's improving, he's having the best major years of his career because he cares. I think that's one of the beautiful. There's a lot of bemoaning the money in the game and what it's done to golfers and seemingly like they make so much money, maybe they don't care. The one thing it does is it does select out who does care. It shows you who cares when you make so much money that you don't need to try or work at it anymore. It's something that I really appreciate about guys like Justin Rose, Adam Scott, Sergio Garcia.
Seems like Xander. I know we got popped around the Ryder Cup stuff.
He's 30th.
You're talking about the older guys. Okay.
I'm talking about the older guys, like Billy Horschel. He's made more money than he doesn't need to be out there. Like, he's made probably $50 million in his career, and here he is having the best major year of his career at age 38 after like the worst year in his career. I think that is like, it's admirable. It's I mean, like, Justin Rose going and qualifying at age 43 for the Open, as you said, in an era of guys not going and qualifying, or as Gabby said, and having a great major year. He was close at Valhalla too. I think like that's one of the beautiful things is like, everybody likes to point at the money and say this sucks because guys don't have to keep working. But the flip side of that is it shows you the guys that really do care, the super hyper competitive guys that are doing it because they love the sport. And I think like Justin Rose gets, he gets a lot of flack for like some of the sponsor stuff and the way he is. But the guy, I mean, you talk about like top tier A+ competitor. Justin Rose, like, I mean, the guy's a dog too. Yeah. Like, he makes putts. Today he had so many putts that were right on the edge that seemingly just like kind of broke away when he thought they were going to break a different direction. I mean, like, he could have easily won.
Yeah. Thriston, I'll just make a point on him. Impressive performance. There was like this straw man thing happening on Twitter. It's like, I can't stand American journalists who like are rooting against Thriston or don't know about Thriston Lawrence. Like, there is a world of golf that exists outside of the PGA Tour. And like, of course, I think hopefully on this podcast, we've become familiar with him. We've talked about him many times during, when Thriston, don't call me Tristan, for a couple of years now. But my point, like, I don't think there is a lot of golf that exists outside the PGA Tour anymore when you get to high-level elite golfers. And I looked back, and this is not, I'm not saying for better or worse, and probably worse. Do you know, like, the last time a true blue DP World Tour player won a major? Like, this would have been Thriston won. Like, the first time, like a real, not a guy doing both tours, still maintaining his status.
Like
but
Darren
playing.
Clark?
I think it's Danny Willett was still like full-blown Euro Tour in 2016. I went back and looked. So just, I got this one. He was full, like, he didn't play the FedEx Cup after that. Everyone else has. It's Willett in 15. It's Darren Clark in 11 and Graham McDowell in 10. And I think after that, it was like Michael Campbell in 05. That's like 4 guys out of 100 in the last 20, really since this century. And like, that's just, golf has stratified. PGA Tour is dominant. It's consolidated. Thriston, like there's just, it's not as good a tour. It's not the 1980s or 90s anymore, where it's a mix of Seve and Woozy and all these people. It's just not the way golf is anymore. And so, yeah, I'm not saying it's a minor league, but Thriston is less known, not because golf doesn't exist, it's because it's not the major leagues anymore. And that sucks. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but just look at the golf. It hasn't produced, like, fine, if you want to count Rory or whoever or Sergio, go for it. But the European Tour, like, golf has been completely stratified and consolidated. And all these guys this week were talking about,
how dare you disrespect Liv?
Well, yeah, until this recent disruption, fine. But they're going to get back together.
How dare you? I hope all the Liv fans come after you for this take.
Well, one thing, I've read more transcripts this week than I ever do. I don't know why I was into it. Maybe your guy asking Adam Scott about 41 in the FedEx. Somebody kept asking all the Euro Tour players about getting in top 10. And they were all, I'm talking like Ewan Ferguson, McKibben, Manicero.
The great one.
Thriston, of course. And they're all like, yeah, that's the goal. That's a goal. And so maybe the Open's an opportunity with the world's major to actually bring different tours, which maybe aren't as good anymore, and put them a little bit more on an equal footing. And just, I don't know, it's not as closed off, and it's not as stratified in terms of how many Courier Cup points you have or OWGR points you have, because we know that's tilted a little bit too. So anyways, I thought they were straw manning. It was kind of Euros trying to play victim about, there's golf that exists outside the world, outside the PGA Tour. It's like, yeah, we know, but like, it's not as good anymore. And it's a hard truth that I don't know either of us prefer, but that's the way it is. Either way, big ups to Thriston.
Who is your pleasant surprise from the week that we haven't talked about?
I mean, it was probably Billy Boy, but we hit on him.
You could be Billy Boy.
Yeah. How about yours?
I would say you know what? Like, this will go down. He's gonna have a nice fit number 5 on his Wikipedia. I thought Russell Henley, like, there's a world where he won today. Like, there's a world, like, the putts were so, like, it just seemed like every time they cut to him, it was like, here's Russell Henley from 15 feet for birdie. Oh, it just barely missed.
Yeah, a lot of that.
Like, I just felt like there was a world where he won today.
Yep.
And like these majors are such small margin things, right?
Yep.
And Xander hit the gas and just separated, right? But Russell Henley played unbelievable today and got like nothing out of it.
No. He had a chance to really make a move there early before they got to the back 9. And he just, like you said, kind of kept burning.
Even on the back 9, he was still like it never seemed like he was in a spot of bother all day.
Yep.
I don't know. I just think that we could replay this round a few times and he wins.
Yep.
Like, if we replay this round 10 times, I think he wins once or twice based off of how he played today.
Yep. Do you have a favorite quote? You said you read through. There's so many. Can I give you Adam Scott here quickly from Saturday?
Yeah.
It's hard to be aggressive and carefree at a links. You can get a lot of trouble with a careless shot. I think even though if it's gettable, it's more about execution. You can get it without taking any risk if you pull off good shots and hit 4 irons down the fairway and good 9 irons into greens, stuff you're meant to do as a golf pro rather than just bomb and gouge it around. Stuff you're meant to do as a golf pro rather than just bomb and gouge it around. That's pretty backhanded compliment to what pro golf is. He's like, you might have to hit a 4 iron, a 9 iron, actually execute shots as opposed to bomb and gouge. I think still at the links, even when it's not windy, the angles are so important. You can hit a good drive just down the right side. I have no chance to hit it on the green with a lob wedge. And it took some discipline not to just kind of attack and it completely attacked the front 9. He's talking about when it was easy for him that day. If the wind gets up, that's pretty interesting stuff. Stuff you should do as a golf pro. And then talking about the importance of angles. It's pretty interesting. That's like, there were a million of those all week. Go ahead.
Did you see his quote today about like how he's made some changes in his game and how it still feels a little unnatural to hit driver and try and be in the rough, but that's the way he has to play on the PGA Tour?
No, I didn't see that.
It was from today's. It was like he was like, I've made some tweaks. It was like along the lines, I made some tweaks in the game. And as weird as this still is, like the idea of hitting driver and being happy that it ends up in the rough because I'm in better shape is still weird for me. Like it's just like, I mean, I think that explains why this tournament kind of favors older players, is that there is like an element of like, you need to know how to play golf.
Yeah.
As like the vast majority, it's not just this bludgeon fest. I had a question for you.
Go for it.
Do you think Xander's going to actively try not to win the Masters?
You've asked me some insane questions on this podcast before. And you've proposed some insane ideas, and that's what we appreciate you about. You can't, you can't just, if we're in this industry, you got to throw stuff out there and not be afraid of the blowback or looking stupid. And we've never been afraid of looking dumb. We know our place. What the hell are you talking about? No, I don't think he's not going to actively try to not win the Masters.
I think PJ knows where I'm going here.
Because he doesn't want to do the slam? He's scared of the slam? What are you talking about?
PJ, do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't know if I do, but I can't wait to find out.
He'd have to attend another unpaid dinner.
Yeah, I figured
You'd have to get dressed up.
He'd have to get dressed up and go to a dinner.
Guy just hates eating.
For free. A free dinner.
You had that one in your pocket. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. He'd have to do it every year for the rest of his life, essentially.
Yeah. Think about that piling up with the Ryder Cup dinners.
Yeah, that would suck. Got to get dressed up. Got to wear a coat. I thought it was like he doesn't want the slam on him or something. But all right, I like it. It's not a dumb question. It was a setup. You threw one up to yourself and then brought the bat through the zone and knocked it out. I like that. It was pretty good.
I almost tweeted it, but I thought I'm not going to waste this on Twitter.
I've tried to stop doing that too. Yeah. Anyways, we don't need a favorite quote. I love the Home Alone about playing basketball. It's freeing because you don't know how to do it. Did you see that quote?
No.
It was pretty cool. They're talking about how you have to chip 7-iron.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, I feel like these are oddly freeing, that kind of stuff, because you're not supposed to know how to do it. It's not input, put the input into the machine and get the output. You're not supposed to know how to do it. You kind of feel like a kid again and just chip them. There's no science to it on those. You really have to have some feel for it. Like you're on a basketball court. You just see it and try to make the 7-iron go that far. God, so much good kind of chicken soup for the golf soul this week. Go ahead.
You want a Russell Henley one?
Sure.
Russell Henley Bob?
Yeah. Henley Bob. Yeah. What?
I don't know if I can in one sentence the questions about links golf and golf here, golf over there. But I would say every lie, every shot is just so different. You have to be willing to play shots you're not comfortable with. Sometimes the wind is blowing really hard right to left, and you have to feel like I'm hitting a slice to straighten it out. And you have to be willing to be creative. You have to be willing to be creative. And I think like if I was going to make like the thing that bums me out about PGA Tour golf week in, week out is that it's just robot golf. That's why this is the golf. This is the sport of golf. This is where it started. The idea of golf, the whole essence of it when it started was, here are your sticks and this is where we're going. Get the ball over there. It's a silly freaking game. It's not supposed to be this simple algorithm of hit it as far as you can into the rough, find it and hit it onto the green. That's not the way it was. It's always meant to be thoughtful. And the creativity, we're
getting farther away from is this just some other display of elite skill on the PGA Tour and not necessarily golf?
I think that Bacon tweeted this like the other thing. There should be a month of great golf links.
Yeah.
I mean, we have another great links event coming up. It's the Irish Open's at Royal County Down in September. That's going to be awesome.
It is, but
nobody's going to be there. Billy, do you think Billy's going?
I think he probably is. I was thinking about that today. I think it's before Wentworth, or they've got it stacked on top of each other. So he's probably going to both.
Hey, one last thing. We got to bring PJ in for this. PJ's attended a West Ham. I think he's more versed in West Ham.
He's got a West Ham hat on as we're recording this. You're watching this on YouTube.
Does Billy's second, like, is Billy's second place? To me, West Ham is a pretty down in the dumps
club.
They're not
team.
bad. They're not terrible anymore. They've gotten better recently.
I found out that there's a statue, like they memorialized the 1966 World Cup, and they claim it as a victory for them because because apparently like the three best players on England were all their players.
Oh.
So there's a statue outside the stadium of the 1966 World Cup. That's their big win. Does Billy deserve a statue for his second place finish outside of West Ham Stadium, whatever it is?
It's the Olympic Stadium where they did the 2012 Olympics in London. I mean, listen, I think Billy fought hard. No, it's the Olympics where they had like the track and field and stuff. Yeah, I broke out my West Ham hat. I was ready to celebrate. I was ready. I was gonna try to find maybe like blow some bubbles, get some bubble soap around here.
Is that what they do?
What's the bubble? What is that reference? That's lost on us.
I'm forever blowing bubbles is their song, and they have like a bubble machine when they score goals. It's a whole big thing. Like they literally blow bubbles.
Unique. I don't know if I'm in on it, but unique.
Billy Ho fans need to start bringing bubbles to PGA Tour events.
Yeah.
Batons and bubbles.
Do you think you could get bubbles past PGA Tour security? Is that a prohibited item from PGA Tour events?
If you are going to TPC Sod Farms when Billy's on the range at 7:30 a.m. grinding on Tuesday morning,
get a bubble machine.
Go blow some bubbles.
I love that. Andy, you talked a little bit about uncreative or just, I don't know, uncreative golf. Can we talk about those who missed the cut or lost major season really quickly? Rory missed the cut. Wyndham Clark missed the cut. Bryson missed the cut. We talked about these guys a little bit on Friday, but I think overall, Spieth has another lost season at the majors.
Can I ask
Rahm,
a question?
Yeah.
Do you think Tiger doesn't know how to play links golf? Is that why he missed the cut?
Yes, that's why he missed the cut.
Okay.
No, I'm not proposing that's why people missed the cut. I'm talking about the guys who just didn't get it done this week. Another lost major season for JT and Spieth. It's been a while. So, I mean, I guess JT has a Southern Hills thing in there, but it's been a while for Spieth for sure.
Hey, one last anecdote.
On West Ham?
I got to get this, but no, before we move to this segment. Did you see Big Tom Morris's brother? What? I think this might have been a private message to me. Big Tom's 6'9".
Yeah.
His brother also plays D1 college golf.
Yeah, he's Santa Clara.
Santa Clara.
Yeah.
Do you know what his numbers are? What he's measuring at? What he's weighing in at?
No.
He's 6'10", 315.
Oh my God. Big Tom. He got some Morrison genes.
This guy sent in a picture of the two of them walking down the fairway together. They're just massive human beings. They're dwarf the people around them.
Where are you at right now with JT? 77, 67, 77.
I feel like I had such optimism going into today, and that tee shot off one.
Boom, out of here.
That's incredible. From just like a way to get you. Just like I feel like that was like
I felt bad for him. Head down immediately.
I woke up at 5 a.m. Pacific today. And like that was one of the first shots I saw. It just got me into the golf. Like it was a great, like I feel bad for JT that it went down like that. But when you talk about like something like a way to hook a story,
natural,
right? Like if you were if you were gonna just like write an article, oh man, that was a good hook. That just got me like, oh boy,
I'm in.
I mean, the wind was coming off the right too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
What do I feel? I mean, like he's like Mito Pereira getting electrocuted on the 18th tee box away from being completely irrelevant in pro golf or in major pro golf, like major championship pro golf for 5-6 years.
I think it'd be closer to 7. Yeah.
I don't feel great about it. I don't. I mean, Spieth, I think like
Spieth is just not there. He's just not. Enough.
He's just not a major championship player anymore.
Masters maybe. Maybe.
Masters is the only place that allows him to just like trash can it around.
Wyndham, speaking of trash canning it not around. Just trash canning it into the trash. He's bad. Is this just a total flash in the pan? Is the mural or the sort of portrait up at LACC they're going to put up in the clubhouse, they're going to bring that down? They're going to be shamed, but that's their champion. What's going on with Wyndham Clark? A disaster near DFL. He was in the Bradbury zone.
I don't think we have enough tape on Wyndham.
Okay.
I know everybody has been launching missiles at him.
It's easy to pop when you're down.
But like, I honestly don't think we have like enough.
I think that's fair. Reasonable.
I don't think people come here for reasonable takes, but like, I mean, he's played in only 12 majors to date.
Yeah. I mean, he's playing opposite field events right before LACC.
This was his third Open. And this was the first year that he was exempt into 4 majors. Like,
yeah.
This is the first year that he got 4 cracks at majors. Do I think that his game fits a certain type of golf course? Absolutely. And does that game work everywhere? No. I think if you trotted out Winged Foot, I think you'd feel pretty good about Wyndham Clark, right?
Oh, gosh. I don't know if they want to hear that up in the Mamaroneck or wherever that is. Yeah.
Like he's a bludgeoner. He's a style player. Like if you think about it, I think maybe like the demise of boxing has led to like a bad, like the fact that we don't have like a great sport comp, right? Where you have
Styles.
these different style boxers, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking about that with golf, like Wyndham's a bomb and gouger.
Yeah.
Like he's great. He hits it far, kind of sprays it, but then he's a great wedge player and putter.
Bad season at the majors for him, but more tape. I think, but he's on notice. I think he's on notice for being reasonable. Rory, big one. I don't think we need to grade his season, but
how would you grade it? What would you give it?
For Rory, like a B-. He nearly won one. He was not really contending at the other 3. So B. But I don't know if he wins one, it's an A+. So it's like kind of that razor's edge. And this is where I get.
He had a major in his hand.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't think you could give him lower than a B-.
Yeah. But not factoring at the other 3, then that comes into play because he didn't win that one. And here's where I get like Rory said like a lot of the right things after these heartbreaking majors. He seems to get the resilience. He talks about that, and seems like that is entirely the case. Gets back on the horse, seems to have the right mindset of there will be more chances, and now I know how to do this better than ever. I'm just better and better and better with each one. But like sometimes you get jammed by the draw. He got jammed. It wasn't great either. He didn't play great either.
And he played bad. This was a golf course with the crosswinds, just the element of crosswinds. you couldn't play bad and succeed, and Rory played bad. Like, it
bad.
didn't matter
you
where he was in the
draw, though, too. Yes. So maybe the next one, you're out of your control. Circumstances, time, place, form. And that doesn't change the past, but it sure makes it more painful, in my opinion, because you're getting diminishing chances. And that's why when you have it on your club or your racket or whatever it may be, and he did, like, you have to get it done. And I admire his mentality and his resilience, and I think he'll probably win another major or more. But it's what kind of makes it the missed chances more painful, because I don't know, the next one you might not have it, or the wind might be up, and it just sort of was accentuated this week for me. Do you have a grade for his season?
I think I'd give it a B. We're gonna do a full major grades on Fried Egg this week. But I think I'd give it a B, and it's mainly because he had he had the ball in his hand, right? Like, to win a major, and I think that I don't think he's been in that position in a long time. And we'll always remember that. But, like, I don't think he necessarily was ready to play the Masters. I think if you gave him, like, if you asked him, I would wonder if he would have wished he would have gone and did that Butch Harmon lesson like a month earlier than he did. Because remember, he was doing that weird pre-shot routine.
Yep.
He was bringing he was like getting the club set, and it looked bad. It looked unnatural. Yeah.
Yep.
And he ditched it as soon as the Masters was over. Like, I think, like, if he redid that, he would have probably seen Butch earlier. And I think, like, from that standpoint, and then this week, like, you end this major season and they're so consolidated now. It's a 4-month sprint. Really, this year, like a 3-month sprint, basically 3.5-month sprint. But you have this sprint of majors, and I think for some guys, it's like, oh, this sucks. There's not a major in 9 months. Xander Schauffele and Scottie would be like,
sure,
this sucks that there's not another major for 9 months. I think we're at this point with Rory and what's transpired this year with Pinehurst. I think it's a great thing that there's 9 months till the next major.
Yeah.
I think I think, like, I saw that in his press conference, he's going on vacation this week. I think it's like, that's the best thing that could happen. To me, like, a little bit of time not thinking about golf will be a good thing for Rory. And I think, like, like, there's a lot of stuff that you can build up, successes and things that you can build up over the next 9 months until the Masters. And then we get to talk about it again. Like, the thing is, the question's not getting smaller unless he starts, like, diminishing as a player, and I don't see that happening.
That's everything about the last 5 to 6 years has shown us he's going to consistently perform in majors. But at some point, that's not going to be the case. And the ones that you miss, like, you just can't keep thinking. It just becomes more painful, the Pinehurst miss.
And I think that's, like, the thing that gets, like, he gets a lot of criticism for not winning. But the only reason we still care is that he's continues to be one of the 5 best players in the world for an extraordinarily long time. Longevity wise, it is getting up there. And because he continues to be one of the 5 best players in the world, that's why it's not like a happy surprise when Adam Scott or Justin Rose gets in the mix after 20 years. It is because he continues to be one of the very, very best players in the world.
So we'll see him at the Masters. It will have been 11 years since he won a major. For Rahm, it will be 2 years. Rahm, did he redeem a little bit about his major season a little bit with how he finished today? But it's a lost year for him.
Is it the worst of his career?
0 for 4. I think it was. Obviously missed cut at Valhalla. Did he miss the cut at the Masters? I can't remember.
He finished like 50th or something.
Okay. Pinehurst, he WD'd. That's
T45 cut
TBD.
WD T7. His previous worst year would be 2017. First year as a pro. T27 cut T44 T58. So
good finish today, or good weekend, I would say. Did that redeem anything for you about his season? Gets a top 10.
think again, probably I think the big question is like, wasn't it a good year, and whether it was the money or not, it was the big change, in a player that seemingly like his golf game was consistently going up to the right in terms of quality. And then, something big changed in his life. He went to live, and, there maybe it's just an adjustment year. Maybe that's what it is. But it wasn't the same as what we've grown accustomed to seeing from Jon Rahm.
Yep. All right. Any other notes, odds and ends?
Top Matthew 10. Jordan.
I've got it right here. That's my first note.
This guy's unbelievable.
You called it. No, I got to give you your flowers on this one. You're like, I think he shoots like between 69 and 72 every time. Little do we know, this year, can't break through. Like, he just does it at the Open. He goes 71, 71, 71, 71. Top 10.
He shot 4 straight 71s?
Yes. That's what I'm giving you your flowers for. He literally, what you were talking about, just you thought on a hunch last night, he did. 4 straight 71s, top 10s exemption into next year. The prophecy was foretold. The Matthew Jordan prophecy. Can't succeed at can't succeed to this level at the Porsche Open and the Czech Masters and all these other different, but when you get him on the links, he shot.
Do you want to hear his scores from last year?
Sure. At his
last year he finished 4 under in a T10, same position, tied for 10th, same position.
Automatic. This is incredible.
69, 72, 69, 70. Just no variance.
It's incredible.
Guy's a machine. He's like the closest thing to Lynx Golf Simulation you can throw out there.
That's right. He has Dan Brown to thank. I think Dan Brown, some spit the bit coming in and threw in Matthew Jordan, Adam Scott, gets him a top 10 next year to Portrush. Thriston Lawrence, of course, as well. All the other, Justin Rose now doesn't have to do qualifying, but all the others are kind of.
What did Shub Sharma finish up at? So Shub Sharma had a similar spread last year. So Shub Sharma last year, his spread last year was 68 to 71. So the same, only a 3-shot spread. I mean, this is insane. Matt Jordan in the last 2 years in Opens has shot in a 3-shot window. He's never shot below 69 or above 72. What was Shub Sharma's highest and lowest score this week?
He had a 76.
Oh, he blew the bit.
And then had a 67. But otherwise, he was like right at 72. So, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Rory only had a 3-shot spread last year, too.
Yeah.
What an incredible display of consistency from Matthew Jordan.
Incredible. He's back in. Games within the game. I believe I crushed on that, even though you tried to court pack and keep adding them. Spieth goes 3-0 for me. Pop show.
How about Sam Burns?
Pop show. Burns.
How do you lose that point?
On the overall. What was his stroke lead today? Like 6, 7, 8 shots? He was up on Spieth. Shot 80. Oh my God.
That was the easiest pick of somebody that was a pretender.
Implode. Yeah. Anything on NBC? I just, one note I had in here is like, look, I get that they have the Olympics. I get that the Olympics are imminent, but it felt to the point of disrespectful to the freaking Open Championship that everything was viewed, not everything, way too heavy through the lens of the Olympics. This guy won a gold medal. They put the Olympics graphics next to their name on the leaderboard. Like, this guy will be like, this isn't the John Deere. It's the fucking British Open, the Open. And like, they're kind of like, I get it. There's a lot of money in that. They can do what they want with their rights for the Olympics and the Open. But they went Olympics golf is not like, it's cool. It's not a huge thing yet. And the way so much of today was viewed through that lens. I think they overdid it.
I don't know what you're talking about. The last two gold medalists are
at the top of the
leaderboard.
I got it.
I mean, what I'm amazed is the Olympics threw its weight around and got the FedExCup displaced. I mean, how does the PGA Tour feel about this?
If I'm R&A, I'm a little bothered by this Olympics being our little championship being a setup for the Olympics. It just felt like a lot there, and the commentary, the graphics, everything. Anything else on NBC?
Listen, it's not good. It's just not good. It's. Ideally, competition breeds excellence. And in this case, we've got, CBS and NBC are the dueling broadcasts. And there's a very clear worst broadcast.
Well, it wasn't that case. That wasn't the case probably, 5 years ago.
4 years ago.
Really upped its game. And yeah, NBC was pretty steady and solid 5 years ago.
I mean, the playing through... I just would rather have the commercials.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Because I was watching both the world feed. I just had both on. So we get the world feed as media. It's commercial free. Yeah. And what I noticed is when they go to commercial, like straight commercial, what happens is then they just go quick succession shots. Like every shot that I just saw on commercial that you missed as a viewer, they will go quick succession. Boom, 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 boom. And I was like, oh, they just caught up. That was nice. But when they do the playing through, everybody checks out because it's a commercial. Nobody's watching playing through on the little tiny box on your TV. And what happens is all the important stuff that happens then, they don't replay it. Like the Scheffler 4-putt happened during it today.
Yeah.
And it was jarring because you come out. I think I stopped paying attention at that point, and I kind of came out and I was like, "Wait, what happened to Scheffler?" And then I went back and watched it.
Yeah, it's not I echo your sentiment.
And then also their boost is a disaster. The boost is a disaster.
Yeah, I didn't know how far we wanted to go into that. It's gotten
when you got no broadcaster, when you got no lead guy. That means you got no guy.
It's a lot of voices hopping around. It's gotten so much better in terms of amount of coverage. Wasn't that long ago, 5 years ago, where there was no playing through. We see more, but there were a lot of voices. But the Olympics thing was my big bone to pick on Sunday, at least. I think that does it.
Hey, one last thing. PJ sent me the stats in here. We did this earlier in the week, but for those that missed.
Is he just pulling stats for you now?
Well, no, this was a follow-up. This is a follow-up from Friday. About just it's not just that we think that the Open rewards age. Over the last 10 years, it's been very true with stats. This year, just at a glance, the majors, average age at the Masters of the top 10 on the leaderboard, 29. Average age of the PGA, 31.45. U.S. Open, 31.18. Note, Davis Thompson pulled it down there. Now, if we go to the average age of the Open Championship, 32.67. So by far the oldest of the aforementioned majors, the tournament that requires the most experience to play well, continues to be.
Yep. Can't wait for Portrush. I cannot wait.
I kind of want to go. I love covering this tournament at home, but I kind of want to go.
It's a mix of serious FOMO, but also being kind of happy I watched that Saturday on TV and wasn't kind of running around in the wind and cold and not understand. I don't know. I love going over there. Love it. I think we're going to Portrush is what we're saying.
What I love about covering these at home is the idea of work-life balance on a weekend, being able to go being done by 3, my time 3 or your time 6, and having a semblance of a life.
I might even drive to the beach tonight. for this week. I didn't think that was going to happen. We'll see.
You're going to be out. We got some guests coming on.
I think so.
I think Hurricane Shane's coming on for Wednesday. I'm gonna find somebody for Friday. We'll see who we can rummage up.
Yeah. I might request you do in-out alternate for Bacon, or he do that for you for 3M. Sounds like a super stinky field.
Well, I can't prep for the pod. I can't prep to host and ignore the field. So I might have to do it for him. You have to do it to him.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for your continued support. This was another awesome men's major season. Like, these dailies, they can be a lot of work, but the response and listenership is significant. And it's, we see your messages. We appreciate it. And I don't know. We'll keep doing it. We'll keep
who's leading the CUDA?
Who? Marcus Armitage. I saw he was going nuts for a minute yesterday.
We got Patrick Rogers and Mac Messner atop the leaderboard with
Rogers every year. It's what Akshay,
loves the Pacific Northwest.
I mean, he loves it, but not enough to win. It's like, can we get across
Pacific
the line
Northwest
finally?
Guy.
Yeah, he's from Indiana, but
he's a Pacific Northwest guy. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for your continued support. We'll be back Wednesday, or some of us will be. Talk to you then.